What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to JohnnyKpicks. And in this video, I'll be going over my full card, picks and predictions, along with the bet that I have so far for UFC Vegas 68, Lewis versus Spivak. Now, first things first, please hit that like button, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet, or if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to turn on the notifications so you don't miss out on any of the new videos that I put out or live streams that we have. Alright, so it's been a couple weeks since UFC 283, and there were a lot of great fights on there, but I'm going to quickly go over all the fights like I usually do and what happened with my bets and picks. So, for my picks, I ended up going 10-5, which isn't too bad. And for my bets, unfortunately, I did lose a little bit, but not as much as last time. I lost minus 2.85 units. So I like the bets that I had on that card more so than the one before that when I lost over 6 units. So it's just unfortunate. Some things just didn't play out the way I thought it was. I'm not saying that they were completely way off, but hey, it happens. I'm on a little cold streak right now, but hopefully this card I can at least get in the green and start some momentum. All right, so let's quickly go over some of the fights that were good. I might skip over some if they weren't that great. So here we go. The first fight was Daniel Marcos versus Simon Oliveira. Honestly, we were still doing our live, so I think I missed the first round of this. So what I did see, though, was Marcos looked really good in the second round, and he got that knockout in the second round. So good win from him. I missed the whole first round, so I'm going to quickly go over this one. Nunes versus Zern, not the greatest of fights. Nunes ended up winning, but it was closer than I thought it would be. Dalby versus Alves, another kind of not great fight, but Alves stuck in there, but he did lose. Dalby with his conditioning, he always is tough out. One of the Bonfim brothers, Ismail versus McKinney. I had McKinney, so this was a bad pick. But man, Bonfim is really good. So I'm going to know going forward to do not fade this guy. Stamen versus Lacerda. Stamen looked very good on the feet. He ended up winning this fight. He looked a little bit gassed in the third, but he ended up getting the job done. Almeida versus Shamil. Almeida's a beast. We all know that, and he got that finish. The other Bonfim brother, Gabriel versus Lazez. Gabriel is legit. Got it done under in 1 minute, so this guy's legit. He's going to be a big problem in that welterweight division. Moises versus Costa, kind of figured it would come out this way. Moises pretty much dominated the whole fight and got the submission. Bruno Ferreira versus Gregory Rodriguez. I'm kind of mad about this one because Rodriguez was looking good throughout the whole round, and Bruno looked like he was starting to fade a bit, and then he landed that one shot that just put out Rodriguez, and hey, good winning from him. I just didn't see that one coming. Pretoria versus Shogun. Unfortunately, I did pick Shogun. I was just hoping in my heart of hearts that Shogun would walk away with a victory here and a good note, but it just doesn't work like that in the UFC. So, I mean, I would say good win from Eeyore. He did get the win, but, I mean, Shogun was on his last leg, let's be honest. Johnny Walker versus Paul Craig. Kind of figured that fight would end the way it did. Johnny Walker is a beast, and Paul Craig just doesn't have the striking defense, and if he can't get it to the ground, that's what's going to happen. Jessica Andrade versus Lauren Murphy. Oh my God. Lauren Murphy has to be one of the strongest UFC fighters or toughest UFC fighters in the UFC because I don't know how she survived. And I think even in an interview or on Twitter, Andrade said in the third round, she couldn't even throw because her hands were starting to hurt because she was landing so many strikes. So good win from Andrade. I'm surprised she didn't get that finish, but man, Lauren Murphy is just a little brick house there. Gilbert Burns versus Magny. Gilbert Burns made it look very easy. And I did think he was going to win, but I didn't think he was going to make it look that easy. And I don't know if that was just a poor showing for Magny or Burns is really that good grappling because he hasn't really shown that lately. He's been showing off his striking, but man, if he can do that to anybody like someone like Magny, he is going to win a lot of fights still. Moreno versus Figgy. Unfortunately, it ended after the third round because of the punch to the eye with Figgy, and the doctor stopped it. But Moreno was on his way to probably winning that decision if it didn't happen. So I'm not too mad. I did have a bet on Figgy. Not saying it was a bad bet, but I went with Figgy the last 3 times, so I went with him one more time. So good win from Moreno. And yeah, we'll see what happens next. I'm going to probably pick Pantoja over Moreno, so spoiler alert. And Jamal Hill versus Glover, very, very fun fight. And yeah, like I said in my other breakdown video, I thought Glover was going to have a problem taking down Jamal Hill, and he did. He did get him down a couple times, But the majority of the times he couldn't get him down, and Jamal has some really good takedown defense. And he showed that he has 5 rounds of cardio, and he's a problem. And honestly, the light heavyweight division right now is a little bit weird. I think in any given night, there could be a different champion in every fight. So we'll see what happens with Hill. Let's see if he fights Yuri next. I know that's what they were trying to do. So that'll be a very good fight. And yeah, that was 283. So it was a fun, overall, good card. But all right, guys, let's get to my picks and predictions for UFC Vegas 68. First fight we have is Tatsuro Taira versus Jesus Aguilar. Taira is 12-0, 23 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach, and Aguilar is 8-1, 26 years old, 5'4" with a 62.5-inch reach. All right, so Taira is a very good grappler. He's got very good submissions. He's very solid on the feet with his striking, very composed. He doesn't look like he's rattled or anything. He doesn't do a lot of movements or anything like that, which I really do like. He's very calculated. You can tell he's thinking about what he wants to do ahead of time in the future with his striking. With his wrestling, though, his takedowns, he does struggle a bit still, but he's still very young. But once he does get his opponent to the ground, it's not a good thing. And with Aguilar, he's making his UFC debut. He's very well-rounded. He's got good grappling himself. He's got solid striking and boxing. He's very tough, and he has good takedowns as well. But his takedown defense isn't the greatest, so maybe Taira can get him down eventually. But he's going to have to be careful because Aguilar does have some pretty good submissions, especially a good guillotine choke, so that's something to look out for. But this is going to be a very fun fight, but I'm going to go with Taira here. I think he's definitely going to have the advantage on the feet with his range. He's going to be 3 inches taller with a 7.5-inch reach advantage, so I think that'll play a big part on the feet. On the ground, it'll be a little bit closer, but I still like Taira's grappling over Aguilar, so I'm going to say Taira gets the finish here eventually. Like I said, Aguilar is very tough, so I don't see a knockout, but I do see a submission later in the fight. Maybe he can wrap up like a rear naked choke after some grappling exchanges. So with my pick here, I'm going to go with Taira to win, and I say by either late second or third round submission. Next fight we have is Jun Park versus Denis Tiuliulin. Park is 15-5, 31 years old, 5'10" with a 73-inch reach, and Tiuliulin is 11-6, 34 years old, 6'1" with a 77-inch reach. So Park is very well-rounded. He's got solid boxing. He doesn't really throw too many kicks, but he's got very good takedowns, very good grappling and wrestling and top control when he gets on top. He also has good cardio to go 3 rounds with that kind of style. And he doesn't really have the greatest jiu-jitsu, but in his last fight, he did show some of his submission ability when he did get the rear naked choke. And Tiuliulin is a solid striker. He's got power in his hands. He can be hittable at times. His takedown defense isn't the greatest, and when he does get taken down, he doesn't accept being on the back, but he can be controlled. He doesn't really have the greatest get-up game, but he's more so a striker, and he wants to brawl it out. But yeah, honestly, this is one of my more confident picks, and I'm going to go with Park here. If he uses his wrestling here, I think he's going to have an easy decision or maybe even get a late sub here. It's just when it's on the feet, it's going to be close, and I'm not saying Park is a bum on the feet or anything like that, but if he wants to win this fight pretty convincingly, it's get this fight to the mat, use his wrestling. He can get those takedowns fairly easily and just control him and wear him down on the mat. So with my pick here, I'm going to go with Park. And I know Tiuliulin has some power in his hands, like I said in the first round, but if it does get extended to the second round, I don't think it translates too much into the second and third round. So I think Park will be able to get this one done here. So with my pick, I'm going to go with Park to win, and I'm going to say he does get that finish in the late second or third round sub. Moving on up the card, we have Ji-Young Kim versus Mandy Bohm. Kim is 9-6-2, 33 years old, 5'7" with a 72-inch reach, and Bohm is 7-2, 33 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. Okay, so Kim is a very good striker. She's got quick hands. She likes to push forward, and she's high volume. She can be hittable every once in a while, but that's only against really, really good strikers, which I do not think Mandy Bohm is. And with Bohm, like I said, she's got solid striking, but as the fight goes on, she tends to fade and she gets a little bit sloppy. Her technical striking kind of goes out the window, if you want to say. She does have some grappling that she can use, but we haven't really seen it too much in the UFC. And here's another fight that I'm pretty confident in, but I am a little worried because every time I pick Kim, it goes to judges' scorecards, and Kim is on the wrong end of it, even though I think she wins. So I'm gonna hope that the judges get this right here this time, and I'm gonna go with Kim. I do see this fight going to decision. Both these girls are very tough and durable, but I just think Kim will be able to outland Mandy and just get the more impactful shots. Like I said, I don't see a finish. It is possible, but both these girls are not finishers. So with my pick here, I'm gonna go with Kim to win this one by a 30-27 decision. Next fight we have is Hun Sung Park versus Seung-guk Choi. Park is 7-0, 27 years old, 5'7" with a 66-inch reach, and Choi is 6-1, 26 years old, 5'6" with a 64-inch reach. Okay, so this is the first fight of the Road to UFC fights that they have for this card. And I'm going to say this right now. I'm going to butcher so many names coming up here. So if you want to laugh in the comments, go ahead and throw them in there. But Park is a very good grappler with very good takedowns. His striking is okay, but with the tape I saw, he wants to get this fight to the mat. He doesn't really want to stay on the feet too long because that's his bread and butter. And while he's on the mat, he's got very good submission skills. And with Choi, he's kind of well-rounded. He's got solid striking, solid grappling as well, and good wrestling. He doesn't really do anything too great, but he's not really awful at anything. And he does have pretty good takedown defense, so this is going to be something to watch out for in this fight because, like I said, Park wants to get this fight to the mat, and Choi has pretty good takedown defense, so that might be the battle for the fight, but I'm going to go with Park here. Like I said, this is going to be a close fight. I know the line is a little bit wide here, but and I normally like to pick the striker over the grappler if I'm torn, but I'm going to go Park, like I said. I think his grappling is a wider gap, if you want to say, than the striking on the feet. So I do see him eventually getting those takedowns and racking up the control time. I don't see a finish here, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is. So with my pick, I'm going to go with Park to win, and I'm going to say by decision. Moving on up the card, we have Rinya Nakamura versus Toshiomi Kazama. Nakamura is 6-0, 27 years old, 5'7", with a 68-inch reach. And Kazama is 10-2, 25 years old, 5'7", with a 69-inch reach. Okay, so Nakamura has very good wrestling, very good submissions. His striking is okay as well. Not super technical. He can get a little wild, but he does have some power in his hands. And Kazama has solid wrestling and grappling himself. He's got good submissions. Again, not the greatest of strikers. And he doesn't really have great takedown defense, and that's going to be key in this fight. So I'm going to pick Nakamura. I just think he's the better wrestler by far. He's just he's like one or two steps above Kazama in this fight. And I can see a domination win from Nakamura. And if this fight doesn't get to the mat like I think it will on the feet, like I said, I like Nakamura to win too. I think he has got power in his hands to, again, get the knockout. I'm going to go with Nakamura to get that knockout. I do think he'll land some takedowns early in this fight, but as the fight goes on, I can see him getting a knockout on the feet. So with my pick, I'm going to go with Nakamura to win by knockout. Next fight we have is Yi versus Jung Lee. Yi is 21-3, 26 years old, 5'7", with a 71-inch reach, and Lee is 9-1, 27 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach. Okay, so Yi is a very good wrestler and grappler. He's got great takedown ability. He does have some trouble holding his opponents down when he gets those takedowns, but if they do get back up, he puts them right back down real quick. His striking is okay, but definitely a wrestler and grappler first. And with Lee, he's very well rounded. He's got very good technical striking. He manages his range well, and he likes to push forward. His takedown defense isn't the greatest either, but it's not awful. And if he does get taken down, like I said, he does have solid grappling, so he's not like a fish out of water. But to me, for this fight, it just really depends on where the fight's going to take place. If this fight takes place on the feet, I like Lee here all day. But if this fight gets to the mat, I like Yi here all day. So for me, I'm actually going to go with the underdog here. I think Yi can get this one done. He's got a lot more experience. He's got a lot more fights under his belt. He does have good submissions, and he's pretty solid on the feet. Not to say that he's going to knock out Lee in this one, but I'm going to go with the underdog here. I think this is a close fight. And yeah, give me the underdog here. I'm going to say Yi wins this one later in the fight with the submission. A lot of Lee's wins have come in the first round, so I'm really interested to see if this fight does get extended past the first round. What is he going to look like? And I know what E is going to look like. He's got like I said, very good grappling and okay striking. So give me Yi to win this one, and I'm going to say by a second or third round submission. Next fight we have is Anshul Jubli versus Jekka Saragih. Jubli is 6-0, 28 years old, 6 foot with a 69-inch reach, and Saragih is 13-2, 28 years old, 5'8" with a 69-inch reach. All right, so out of all these Road to UFC fights, I think this one is going to be the most fun because both of these guys are very well rounded. They both have very solid striking. They both have good grappling and wrestling. But the only thing different that I see, other than the height advantage that Jubli is going to have, Saragih is going to have a little bit more power than Jubli. And he's also the more dangerous fighter, I believe. But Jubli is no slouch by any means. Wherever the fight goes, he's going to be okay at the very least. He's got, like I said, he's good on the feet. He's good on the ground. So this is a pick 'em basically. But I'm going to go with the more dangerous fighter, and I'm going to go with Saragih to win this one. I just think eventually as the fight goes on, he's going to be able to crack Jubli. And if Jubli tries to shoot in for a takedown, I think he'll be able to stuff him. Or if he does he can reverse him on the mat as well. So with my pick here, I'm going to go with Saragih to win, and I'm going to say he does get that knockout, and I'll say late first or early second round. All right, main card now, we got Yusaka Kinoshita versus Adam Fugitt. Kinoshita is 6-1, 22 years old, 6 foot with a 71.5-inch reach, and Fugitt is 8-3, 34 years old, 6'1" with a 77-inch reach. So Kinoshita is a very good striker. He's very technical on his feet. He's got good counters, very fast hands, very good kicks. He does have some sneaky submissions, but he is a striker first. And Fugitt is very well rounded. He's got solid striking with some power in his hands. He's got good grappling. His takedowns are a little iffy if you want to say, but if it does get to the mat, he does have good submissions as well. And I will say in Fugitt's last fight, he looked very good for taking a fight on short notice against Michael Morales. So I was impressed with him. I know he ended up getting finished in that fight later in the fight, but like I said, it was short notice, so I'm going to give him some props for that one. But with my pick, I'm going to go with Kinoshita here. I think his striking is going to be too technical, and if Fugitt tries to go for those takedowns, I think he'll be able to stuff the majority of them and keep the fight standing. So with my pick, I'm going to say Kinoshita does get the knockout here in the second round. Moving on up the card, we have Choi versus Kyle Nelson. Choi is 14-4, 31 years old, 5'10" with a 70-inch reach, and Nelson is 13-5, 31 years old, 5'11" with a 71-inch reach. Okay, so Choi is a very good striker, very technical, has tons of power in his hands. He doesn't really use any wrestling or grappling, but he does have it in his back pocket, but he's definitely a striker at first. And his takedown defense is just okay. And the red flag that everybody probably already knows is he hasn't fought in 3 years, and this is his first fight back. So that's always a huge red flag for me. So I'm definitely not as confident here with him. And with Nelson, he's a solid striker. He's got some wrestling and grappling as well. He's got some power on the feet. He doesn't really have the greatest takedown defense either, but he doesn't really have to worry too much about that because I think Choi is going to want to keep this fight standing. And like I said, I would normally be all over Choi here, but I do still think he wins this fight, even though it's been 3 years since his last one. But I'm just not super impressed with Kyle Nelson, I'll be honest. So with my pick, I'm going to go with Choi to win this one, even with this long layoff. And I do think he gets the finish, maybe in the first round or second round. Next fight we have is Marcin Tybura versus Blagoy Ivanov. Tybura is 23-7, 37 years old, 6'3" with a 78-inch reach, and Ivanov is 19-4, 36 years old, 5'11" with a 73-inch reach. So Tybura is very well rounded. He's got solid striking, he's got some good takedowns and wrestling, he's got solid cardio and durability for a heavyweight, but he doesn't really have the greatest finishing ability with his hands or even on the ground with any BJJ. And Ivanov is another solid guy here. He's got solid striking. He does have some wrestling in his back pocket that he can use. He's very, very durable. But he's going to be the smaller fighter here by 4 inches of height and 5 inches of reach. And this fight's going to be super close. And I can see it go either way, but I'm going to go with Tybura here just because of the intangibles. And he's going to be the bigger fighter. So I do think he'll be able to manage his range well. He'll be able to outstrike Ivanov. I don't see a finish in this fight, which is kind of weird for a heavyweight division because both these guys really aren't the greatest finishers. They're just both super tough, and they both have cardio for 3 rounds. But like I said, I'm going to go with Tybura to get this one done by decision, but this is going to be a pretty close fight at the end. So I'm looking at that money line, and if it gets closer to a pick'em, I'm going to probably bet Tybura. All right, co-main event time here. We have Jung versus Devin Clark. Jung is 15-3-1, 29 years old, 6'4", with a 78.5-inch reach. And Clark is 13-7, 32 years old, 6 foot, with a 75-inch reach. So Jung is a very good striker. He does have some wrestling that he can use in his back pocket, but he definitely wants to strike first. He's got good power in his hands. He's got good elbows. He likes to push forward, and he does stay at range pretty well. And with Clark, he's a wrestler first. He does have good takedowns, but his striking, not the greatest. And if he does get taken down, he has trouble getting up to his feet. And as the fight goes on, he does slow down a bit, especially if he starts to use his wrestling early. And again, this is one of the fights that I'm very confident in, and I'm going to go with Jung here. I just don't see how Clark can win this one unless he can get those takedowns early and just wear down Jung, but I don't see him getting a lot of takedowns. Jung has pretty solid takedown defense, and I think Jung's going to eventually get the knockout here on the feet. He's going to be the way better striker. And I know Jung lost his last fight against Jacoby by KO, but if you go back and watch that fight, he was actually controlling that fight until the one shot that put him out. So I don't see Clark doing that whatsoever in this fight, and I do think Jung is going to pretty much dominate this fight until he gets that KO. So with my pick, I'm going to say Jung gets a knockout here, late first or second round. All right, main event time here. We have Derek Lewis versus Sergey Spivak. Lewis is 26-10, 37 years old, 6'3", with a 79-inch reach. And Spivak is 15-3, 28 years old, 6'3", with a 78-inch reach. All right, so these guys were supposed to fight, I want to say maybe a month or two ago, but everybody knows Derek Lewis here. He's a very powerful striker. He's very low volume, and he likes to plot and use his energy wisely, if you want to say. But he doesn't have the greatest takedown defense, and depending on how much energy he uses, he does slow down. And I always like to bring this up, and he's said multiple times in multiple interviews that he does not want 5-round fights. And Spivak is an amazing wrestler. He's got good takedowns. His striking is pretty solid, but make no mistake about it, he wants to get this fight to the mat, use his ground and pound. He does have good submissions as well, but he tends to go for ground and pound first. And just like in my last breakdown, I'm going to go with Spivak to win this one. I just think he's going to try to use his wrestling right off the bat, but he's going to have to be very careful doing it early because if Lewis just lands that one shot, Spivak is going down. So I'm hoping that he just doesn't go in there all crazy. He times that takedown at the right time, and he gets it and just works his ground and pound and just puts all of his weight on Lewis so it tires him out. But would it surprise me if Lewis comes in here and goes guns blazing and gets that knockout early? No, actually. But I do think if that happens, Spivak will get that takedown even easier. So with my pick here, I'm going to go Spivak to get this one done. I'll say second round ground and pound, maybe third round. I don't see it happening in the first because I do think Spivak's going to be a little careful trying to get that takedown. But all right, guys, those are my picks and predictions. But I got one bet so far, and that is my 2 most confident picks here, which is going to be Jun-Young Park and Da-Un Jung to win moneyline. And I got that at plus 121. So like I said, these guys have great paths to victory. Park just needs to get this fight to the mat, and he's going to dominate the fight. And kind of the same thing with Jung. He keeps this fight standing. He's going to get that knockout. So I like this parlay a lot. I put 1.5 units on it, so I'll have more as the week goes on. But all right, guys, that's all I got for you today. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And on your way out, please hit that like button. And like I said, I will post the other bets that I do throughout the week on my Instagram or Twitter account. So if you haven't followed me on there, you definitely want to do that. I hope everybody enjoys the fights this weekend. And until next time, happy fight night.